Hey guys, tonight we're riding into the American frontier to explore the life of its most famous outlaw, Jesse James.
But forget the myth of the noble folk hero, the American Robin Hood who fought the rich to give to the poor. We're going to begin with the story of a preacher's son, born into a world of such vicious, partisan hatred that his path to violence was not a choice, but an inheritance. So, before you begin your journey into this troubled past, if you enjoy these
explorations of history's darker corners, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe.
And as always, I'd love to know where you're listening from.
Now, let's travel back to the fractured borderlands of Missouri, dim the lights, and ease into the story of what it was really like to be born as Jesse James. What if you were born in Clay County, Missouri, on the 5th of September 1847? You are Jesse Woodson James. The world you open your eyes to is not, at first, one
Violence.
Your father, Robert James, is a respected and prosperous Baptist preacher, a man known for his eloquent sermons and his successful hemp farm. Your mother, Zerelda, is a strong, proud woman, the daughter of a Kentucky political family.
Your early childhood is one of relative comfort, of church on Sundays, of the quiet, rural rhythm of a farm life. The good news, you are born into a respectable, devout family. The bad news, your home is not a quiet corner of America.
It is
epicenter of a brutal, low-grade civil war, and the hatred that fuels it is the very air you breathe.
This is the major historical fact that will define your entire existence. You are a child of the Missouri-Kansas border, a place that, in the 1850s, is known as Bleeding Kansas. It is the front line in the savage national debate over slavery.
Missouri is a slave state, its economy and culture deeply tied to the South.
The neighboring territory of Kansas is being settled. Anti-slavery free staters from New England. The result is a perpetual state of vicious, undeclared war. Pro-slavery militias from your county, known as border ruffians, ride into Kansas to burn towns, intimidate voters, and murder abolitionists.
The anti-slavery Jayhawkers ride into Missouri to do the same. This is not a war fought by armies in uniform. It is a war of neighbors, a war of midnight raids, of barn burnings, of summary executions. You are too young to understand politics, but you understand the fear. You see the men riding out at night, their faces hard. You hear the hushed, angry whispers of your elders. It is a lesson that will seep into your bones and shape the man you will become.
Your family is not a neutral party in this conflict. Your father is a man of God, but he is also a man of his time and place. This is an obscure but vital detail of your upbringing. He is a major hemp farmer. Hemp, used for making rope for the Navy, and
baling, is a crucial cash crop in Missouri,
and its production is almost entirely dependent on slave labor. Your family owns at least a half-dozen slaves. This fact, and your family's Kentucky roots, places you firmly on the pro-slavery, Southern sympathizing side of the divide. Your identity, your family's wealth, and your community's values are all tied to the institution that is tearing the nation apart.
When you are just 3 years old, your father, the preacher, gets
different kind of calling.
He gets gold fever. He leaves the farm, his family, and his pulpit, and he travels west to the gold fields of California, promising to return a rich man.
He will never be seen again.
He dies of a fever in a rough mining camp and is buried in an unmarked grave. It is the first great, defining absence of your life, but it will not be the last.
The precise impact of your father's death on your young psyche is impossible to measure. Did it instill in you a sense of abandonment, a distrust of the world?
Or did it simply hasten your transformation into the man of the house, under the powerful, domineering influence of your mother, Zerelda?
Your mother remarries, then marries again.
Her final husband is Dr. Reuben Samuel, a quiet, passive man who is completely overshadowed by his formidable wife. Zerelda is the unshakable center of your world.
She is fiercely protective of her children and fiercely devoted to the Southern cause. She,
the one who will teach you to hate the Northerners, the abolitionists, the Jayhawkers, the Republicans, anyone who threatens her way of life. This quiet, simmering hatred that she nurtures in her household will not stay quiet for long.
The entire nation is a tinderbox, and your family is living right on top of the fuse. In 1861, the Great American Civil War officially begins.
But for you, a boy of 13 living on the Missouri-Kansas border, the war has been a part of
life for as long as you can remember. It is not a distant, abstract conflict fought by armies far away.
It is here. It is personal.
And it is about to consume your family, your youth, and your entire future, setting you on a path of violence from which you will never, ever return.
The year is 1863. You are 16 years old.
The Great American Civil War, which began as a distant rumble of politics and far of battles, has now arrived in your backyard, and it is not a noble.
Missouri is a border state, the place of divided loyalties, and the war here is not one of grand armies and formal engagements. It is a vicious, intimate, and brutal guerrilla war, a direct and bloody continuation of the bleeding Kansas conflicts of your childhood.
Your older brother, Frank, has already left to join the pro-Confederate partisan Rangers, known to their enemies as bushwhackers, and one day, the war comes for you. A detachment of local Union militia, hunting for, and his comrades, rides up to your family's farm. They are not here to discuss politics.
They drag your stepfather, Dr. Reuben Samuel, from the house and torture him, repeatedly hanging him from a tree to try and force him to reveal the location of the guerrillas. They do not kill him, but the act is one of pure, terrorizing brutality. They then turn on you.
You are just a boy, but in this war, there are no children, only sides. They lash you with a rope, demanding information.
Tell them nothing.
The soldiers finally leave, having found no rebels, but having successfully planted a seed of profound personal and murderous hatred in your young heart. You will see things, and do things, in the woods and hollows of Missouri that will scour the last remnants of the preacher's son from your soul. This experience is the final catalyst.
The abstract political hatred nurtured by your mother has now become a concrete physical reality.
A callback to her.
Influence. Your path is now clear.
As soon as you recover, you say goodbye to your mother, take a horse, and you ride out to find your brother.
You are too young to join the regular Confederate army.
Fortunately, there is a local, less formal organization with more flexible hiring standards. You find your brother serving in one of the most savage and feared guerrilla bands on the border, the one led by a man named William Bloody Bill Anderson, and you sign up immediately. This is major historical fact that is the key to understanding the man you will become.
You do not learn to fight in an army.
You learn to fight in a band of what the Union Army considers to be terrorists. The guerrilla war in Missouri is a conflict of no quarter. Prisoners are not taken. Wounded men are executed.
You fight not in a uniform, but in civilian clothes.
Your training is not about drills or formations. It is about learning how to ride hard, shoot fast from the saddle, and without hesitation or remorse.
You are not a soldier in an army.
You are a member of a political death squad on horseback.
Your life is now a constant series of lightning-fast raids and brutal ambushes. You live in the saddle, sleeping in hidden camps in the woods, always on the move.
You learn to survive on what you can carry.
You learn the geography of your home county, not as a place of farms and towns, but as a battlefield of secret paths, hidden hollows, and ideal ambush.
The Union's response to your guerrilla tactics is equally brutal.
In an attempt to destroy your civilian support network, they issued General Order No. 11, an obscure but infamous command.
It forces the depopulation of entire counties along the border, driving thousands of families, mostly women and children, from their homes and burning their farms to the ground. This act of collective punishment does not crush your rebellion. It fuels it with a righteous, fanatical fury.
Your comrades see yourselves not as terrorists, but as avengers, as Southern patriots fighting a just war against a tyrannical and brutal occupying force.
The exact number of atrocities committed by both the bushwhackers and the Unionist jayhawkers is impossible to tally.
It was a war fought in the shadows, a conflict whose brutalities were often unrecorded, leaving only a legacy of bitter multi-generational hatred that would last long after the official war was over.
You are a teenager, and you are becoming an expert in the art of killing.
You are praised by your commanders for your skill, your courage, and your cold-blooded efficiency.
You are part of some of the most infamous massacres of the war, including the Centralia Massacre, where you and your fellow guerrillas, dressed in captured Union uniforms, stopped a train, dragged of 24 unarmed Union soldiers who were on leave, and executed them in cold blood.
The boy who was raised on sermons is now a hardened killer.
And you have not yet turned 18.
The war will eventually end, but the man who emerges from these bloody woods will not be a boy returning to the farm.
He will be a trained, traumatized, and deeply embittered guerrilla, a man whose only known trade is violence, and he will soon need a new war to fight.
The year is 1865.
You are 18 years old, and the world as you know it has ended. In April, the great Confederate General Robert E.
surrenders his army at Appomattox Courthouse. The American Civil War is officially over.
This is terrible news for you. For the regular soldiers of the Confederacy, the surrender means a parole, a promise not to take up arms again, and a long, weary walk home. For you, a pro-Confederate guerrilla, a Missouri bushwhacker, it means something entirely different. You are not considered a soldier by the victorious Union government. You are considered a war criminal, a terrorist, and there is no honorable discharge for you, only a wanted poster and the constant threat of a rope. This is a major historical fact that will seal your fate.
The formal peace treaties do not apply to the irregular parties and bands of the border states. The war here does not end with a handshake. It just dissolves into a series of bitter retaliatory manhunts. Your comrades in arms are now hunted men. Some are captured and summarily executed.
Others are shot on sight by vengeful
militias or federal patrols.
There is no clear path to surrender, no safe way to simply go home.
You and a group of your fellow guerrillas, hearing of the official surrender, decide to try and make your own peace. You ride towards a Union Army encampment near Lexington, Missouri, under a white flag of truce, hoping to be granted the same parole as the regular soldiers.
But the Union soldiers in Missouri, a callback to the brutal no quarter or you have all been fighting, have
different view.
They have spent the last few years being ambushed, harassed, and terrorized by men just like you.
They see your white flag not as a sign of peace, but as a trick.
As you approach their lines, they open fire.
It is a chaotic, confusing, and bloody end to the war. During this surrender, you are shot twice. One bullet tears through your knee, another enters your chest, shattering several ribs and collapsing your right lung. You fall from your horse severely,
your life bleeding out into the Missouri dirt.
You have managed to survive years of savage guerrilla warfare, participating in some of the most brutal raids of the conflict, only to be shot down while trying to give up. The irony is as painful as the bullet in your lung. The exact circumstances of your wounding are a matter of some legend.
Were you genuinely trying to surrender peacefully, as your later supporters and the mythology would claim?
Or was it a final chaotic skirmish?
A war that refused to die down neatly?
The only certainty is the near-fatal bullet that collapsed your lung and nearly ended your life.
You are rescued by your comrades and, under the cover of darkness, you are taken to a safe house, and from there, eventually smuggled back to your family's farm.
You spend the next several months teetering on the brink of death. You are nursed by your mother, Zerilda, and your sister, Susan. The wound in your chest is severe.
It festers. You, racked with fever and pain. The local doctors can do little for you. It is a slow, agonizing recovery, and for a long time, it seems you will not make it. But you are young, you are tough, and you survive.
You emerge from your sickbed a changed man.
You are physically weakened, your lung permanently damaged, and you are a man without a country.
While you were recovering, the new radical Republican government in Missouri has consolidated its power. They have passed laws designed
punish former Confederates.
Chief among these is the ironclad oath, an obscure but devastating piece of legislation. To vote, to hold any public office, to be a lawyer, a teacher, or even a corporate officer, you must now swear an oath that you have never, in any way, offered aid or comfort to the Confederacy.
For you, a man who has spent the last 2 years as a dedicated Confederate guerrilla, this oath is an impossibility. You have been legally and systematically stripped of civil rights. You are a second-class citizen in your own home. This is the sucky reality of your situation. You are a defeated soldier in a lost cause. You are physically crippled by a wound you received while trying to surrender.
You are legally barred from participating in the society around you.
And you are filled with a deep, bitter, and abiding hatred for the government, the state, and the men who have done this to you and your family. The official war may be over for the
of America, but for you, it has just become a permanent personal condition.
You have the skills of a guerrilla fighter, a profound sense of grievance, and absolutely no future in a peaceful world.
The outlaw is not yet born, but he has just been given all the motivation he will ever need.
You have survived the war, and you have survived the wound, but the world you have returned to is a foreign country. The war is over, and a new era of so-called Reconstruction has begun. 4.
And your fellow former Confederate sympathizers in Missouri, Reconstruction mostly feels like being governed by your sworn enemies, occupied by Union troops, and having your civil rights systematically erased. It is a very peaceful and very infuriating time.
A callback to your disenfranchisement, the ironclad oath ensures that you and your kind have no voice in this new world. You are a defeated man in an occupied land, and a deep, bitter resentment festers in the heart of community. It is in this poisonous atmosphere that a new idea begins to take shape. You and your brother Frank, along with your cousins. The younger brothers Cole, Jim, and Bob are all young, proud, and battle-hardened veterans of a brutal last war. You have no legal future. You have no peaceful prospects. So you decide to create a future for yourselves. Your new business plan is to continue the Civil War, but in a more focused, profitable, and highly illegal way. You are not thieves. You are, in your own minds, unreconstructed rebels, political insurgents with a severe cash flow problem. On a cold, snowy morning, February 13th, 1866, your new career begins. A group of heavily armed men, former Confederate guerrillas, rides into the sleepy town of Liberty, Missouri. Your direct personal involvement in this first robbery is a matter of intense historical debate. You are still officially recovering from your severe lung wound, but whether you were holding gun that day or simply helping to plan the operation from your sickbed, the crime was committed by your circle, for your cause, and your name would be forever linked to it as the beginning of your legend. This was not a random act of criminal violence. It was a targeted political statement. This is a major historical fact of your gang's origin.
The target was the Clay County Savings Association.
The bank was owned and operated by prominent local unionists and radical politicians. The money it held belonged, in part, to the very establishment that was enforcing the humiliating Reconstruction policies and the disenfranchising ironclad oath. This was not a simple robbery.
It was a raid on the enemy's treasury. The act itself is audacious and brutally efficient, a callback to the lightning-fast tactics of your bushwhacker days.
The gang rides into town in broad daylight. While some men hold the horses and keep watch, 2 others walk calmly into bank. They are not masked. This is not about stealth. It is about a defiant, arrogant display of force.
They draw their pistols, force the terrified clerks to fill a sack with money, and then walk back out.
As they ride out of town, they are shouting and firing their pistols into the air like conquering soldiers, not thieves. An innocent bystander, a young student from their local college, is shot and killed in the chaos. The gang disappears into the countryside, having stolen
$60,000 in cash and bonds. It is the first successful daylight, armed bank robbery in the United States during peacetime.
And you are at the very center of it. This single, audacious act will set the pattern for your entire career. You are not just a criminal. You are a symbol.
To the Union authorities and the Republican government, you are a terrorist, a dangerous remnant of a defeated rebellion, a threat to peace and order. But to the thousands of resentful former Confederates in Missouri, you are something else entirely.
You are a hero.
You are a rebel who is still fighting.
You are taking back what was stolen from them, striking a blow against the corrupt bankers and the Yankee politicians who now rule their lives. You did not choose this path because you were born evil.
You were pushed onto it by the violence of your youth, by the trauma of the war, and by the political and social injustices of the world you returned.
You have just taken your first irreversible step into a life on the run. The war may be over for the rest of the country, but for you, it has just entered a new, more personal, and more dangerous phase.
You have committed your first great crime.
The 1866 bank robbery in Liberty, Missouri, a callback to the political violence of your youth, is a stunning success. You and your gang of former Confederate guerrillas have money in your pockets and the full, furious attention of the
authorities.
You are now officially wanted men. But something strange and unexpected happens next. You do not become a feared and hated villain.
You become a hero. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. Your real, sordid, and violent life is about to be completely hijacked by a powerful and romantic myth, a legend that will protect you, define you, and ultimately trap you. You find an unlikely and incredibly powerful ally in a man named John Newman Edwards.
This is a
historical fact, and the key to understanding your entire legend. Edwards is a brilliant, charismatic, and unapologetically pro-Confederate newspaper editor. He sees in your crimes not mere theft, but a continuation of the lost cause.
After the Liberty robbery and the subsequent crimes committed by your gang, he begins to write a series of long, florid, and wildly popular editorials in his newspaper, the Kansas City Times. In his telling, you are not a common criminal. You are modern-day Robin Hood, a chivalrous knight of the road, a noble Saxon warrior fighting back against the tyranny of the corrupt northern Norman bankers and railroad barons. He is your personal press secretary, your public relations manager, and he is very, very good at his job. He paints a picture of you as a gentleman robber, a man who only steals from the rich, Yankee-owned institutions that are oppressing the poor, defeated people of Missouri. He writes that you are daring, and unfailingly courteous to women.
He invents a code of honor for you.
The legend grows with every robbery, and the people of western Missouri, who share your deep-seated hatred for the Reconstruction government, believe every word of it.
They see you as their avenger, their champion. They give you shelter. They give you information. They lie to the lawmen who come asking about you. This popular support, nurtured by Edwards's pen, becomes a protective shield that makes almost impossible to capture, and then you begin to participate in your own myth-making.
This is an obscure but fascinating detail of your career.
You, or someone in your inner circle, begin to write letters directly to the newspapers. You are essentially issuing press releases for your criminal enterprise. It is the 19th century version of managing your personal brand on social media.
In these letters, you deny involvement in certain crimes where civilians were hurt.
Your political motivations, blaming the radical Republicans for forcing you into this life.
You cultivate the image of a wronged man, a reluctant outlaw fighting for justice.
Whether you, Jesse, a man with a very limited formal education, actually wrote the eloquent and politically savvy letters attributed to you, or if they were ghostwritten or heavily edited by your great champion, John Newman Edwards, is a matter of historical debate.
The sucky reality is the profound gap between this heroic public myth and your miserable private life.
The legend says you are a dashing knight.
The reality is that you are a paranoid fugitive, sleeping in cold, damp caves or in the barns of sympathetic farmers, always listening for the sound of hoofbeats in the night. The legend says you are a gentleman. The reality is that your profession is one of brutal, terrifying violence.
You have seen your friends and cousins shot to pieces in botched robberies.
The romance,
the outlaw life is a fiction, written by a man in a comfortable newspaper office.
The truth is a life of constant fear, bad food, and the ever-present threat of a violent death. But you are now trapped by the legend. You must perform the role of Jesse James, the folk hero.
You must live up to the myth.
This myth is a powerful shield.
It gives you the support of the local people and makes you a symbol of Southern defiance.
But a legend is a heavy thing to carry. It makes you a target for the law. It attracts young, reckless men to your gang who are in love with the myth, not the hard reality of the work.
And it creates a public persona that you can never escape.
You are no longer just a man. You are an idea.
And you will spend the rest of your life trying to survive in the long, dark shadow cast by your own celebrated and entirely fictional reflection.
You are a legend, a myth in the making. The newspapers, fueled by the brilliant propaganda of
Newman Edwards, have transformed you from a common highwayman into a political symbol, a Confederate avenger with a heart of gold. But this is the next reason it sucks to be you. The legend and the man are two very different people, and you are forced to live the miserable life of the man.
The thrilling adventures described in the dime novels bear no resemblance to the grim, boring, and deeply uncomfortable reality of your daily existence as a fugitive. The dime novels say yours is one of constant, thrilling chases and daring escapes under a wide open sky. The reality is that you spend most of your time hiding
in a damp, cold cave in the Missouri hills.
Hiding in the hayloft of a sympathetic farmer's barn, trying not to sneeze from the dust. Hiding in the cramped attic of your mother Zerelda's own farmhouse. The great freedom of the outlaw life, you discover, involves an enormous amount of sitting very quietly in small, dark spaces and praying.
No one's dog starts barking.
This is a major historical fact. The great secret to your long career. You survived not because you were the fastest gun, but because you were protected.
You are insulated by a vast and deeply loyal network of former Confederate sympathizers in western Missouri. They are your eyes and your ears. They give you food, shelter, and fresh horses. They lie to the lawmen. They are a silent civilian army that makes you practically invisible. But this
comes at a price. You are not a free rider of the plains. You are a prisoner of your own safe houses, a man who can only move at night, a ghost in your own homeland, and the physical toll of this life is immense.
A callback to the severe wound that ended your war. The bullet in your lung has left you with a permanent, nagging cough and a vulnerability to every cold and fever.
This is an obscure but vital part of your reality. You are not a healthy, robust hero. You are a man.
Chronic pain, often sick, and the brutal conditions of your life sleeping rough in all weather. A poor and monotonous diet. The constant, knowing stress only make it worse. Your diet is not one of lavish feasts from stolen riches. It is a repetitive cycle of whatever your sympathizers can spare.
Fried bacon, cornbread, and weak coffee. Sometimes just cornbread and water. You are one of the most famous men in America, and you are desperately hoping your host has a spare potato too. In the stew,
The psychological burden is even heavier.
you can never relax.
You live in a state of hypervigilance, a soldier who can never leave the battlefield.
Every approaching rider on the road could be a posse. Every friendly stranger who recognizes you in a small town could be a potential informant, tempted by the growing reward money.
Every dog that barks in the night could be the signal of your doom. You sleep with a pistol in your hand.
You learn to eat facing the door.
Trust no one completely, not even the members of your own gang. It is a very stressful way to live, and it is terrible for your digestion. How your gang managed their finances from the robberies is poorly understood.
Did you bury it, as the legends claim?
Or did you, more likely, entrust large sums to your family members, like your formidable mother Zerelda, who acted as the unofficial treasurer and banker for the entire criminal enterprise?
What is certain is that the great you are famous for are not a part of your daily life. You live like a poor tenant farmer, constantly in hiding. Your only luxury, the temporary safety of a friendly roof over your head.
This network of friends and family is your greatest strength. It is the reason you have survived so long while other, less connected, outlaws are quickly captured or killed. You do not realize it yet, but this same network, this deep-rootedness in your community, will eventually become your vulnerability, the very thing that leads to your downfall.
For now, however,
it is your sanctuary, a secret world of shared loyalty and simmering hatred that allows you to exist. But it is a small, claustrophobic world.
You are the great Jesse James, a name known across the country, but your real life is spent hiding in attics, whispering in barns, and waiting, always waiting, for the moment when you must run again.
You have created a successful criminal enterprise, built on foundation of local sympathy and a powerful, romantic myth. But your success now attracts a new, more dangerous, and far more relentless kind of enemy.
You have moved on from robbing small-town banks to a more lucrative target, the railroads. In robbing the trains, you are not just stealing from a company. You are attacking the very arteries of the new industrial America. The powerful railroad and express companies, tired of being harassed by what they see as a provincial,
decide to hire a new kind of lawman to deal with you. They hire the Pinkerton National Detective Agency. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. You are no longer playing a game against local sheriffs and clumsy, temporary passes.
You are now the primary target of what is, for all intents and purposes, America's first private, corporate-funded army. This is a major historical fact of your life. The Pinkertons are a different breed.
They are methodical. They are well-funded. Their agents are sent from their main offices in Chicago with a single, clear objective: to hunt you down and destroy your gang, by any means necessary. Their famous logo is a stylized, unblinking eye. Their motto, an obscure but terrifying detail, is "We never sleep." This is now the force that is hunting you.
Congratulations. You have annoyed capitalists so much that they have hired a private army of insomniacs to hunt you down.
The war between your gang and the Pinkertons is brutal, dirty, and deeply personal affair. They send their best agents to Missouri.
You, a callback to your days as a guerrilla fighter, use your intimate knowledge of the terrain and your network of local sympathizers to lead them into a series of deadly ambushes. Several of their agents are killed.
You are very, very good at this game of cat and mouse.
But the Pinkertons are not a local posse that goes home after a bad day.
They are a corporation.
They do not like seeing employees get killed. It is bad for business and bad for their brand. They decide to escalate. On the cold, dark night of January 25, 1875, the Pinkertons make their most infamous and disastrous move.
Convinced that you and your brother Frank are hiding at your mother Zerelda's farm, they surround the house in the dead of night.
They are not there to make an arrest.
They are there for a military-style raid.
They throw a flaming incendiary device, an iron ball filled with
chemicals, through the kitchen window. It is a catastrophic miscalculation.
The device explodes in the fireplace, sending a shower of shrapnel and fire through the small room.
The explosion kills your innocent, 8-year-old half-brother, Archie Samuel. It tears off your mother Zerelda's right arm. You are not even there.
The agents, in their blind determination, have just murdered a small child and maimed a woman in a botched raid on the wrong target.
This brutal, tragic event,
a turning point. It is meant to break you, to terrorize your family into submission. Instead, it becomes the single greatest public relations victory of your entire career. The news of the bombing of the James farm creates a wave of public outrage across Missouri and the entire South. Your great champion, the editor John Newman Edwards, a callback to his myth-making, has a field day. He writes scathing, magnificent editorials denouncing the Yankee Pinkerton assassins and railroad barons who hired them. You, who were becoming seen as a common, violent criminal, are instantly transformed back into a righteous victim, a folk hero, a southern son defending his home and family against the ruthless aggression of northern corporate power.
The Missouri state legislature holds hearings, denouncing the Pinkertons' illegal cross-state raid.
The agency is shamed, its reputation in the region shattered. The attack was meant to destroy you. Instead, it makes
more popular, more mythic, and more untouchable than ever. But this victory comes at a terrible, sucky price.
Your baby brother is dead, and your mother has been horribly mutilated. Your life of crime has now brought devastating, tragic violence to the very people you were supposedly fighting to protect. The legend of Jesse James is now being written in the blood of his own family. You are now the most famous, most celebrated, and most mythologized outlaw in America. The
Pinkerton raid on your family's farm has backfired spectacularly, turning you from a simple criminal into a righteous symbol of Southern defiance.
Your legend is at its peak. You are untouchable, a ghost protected by a sea of public sympathy.
And it is this very success, this profound arrogance, that leads you directly to the greatest single disaster of your entire career.
This is the next reason it sucks to be you. You start to believe your own hype. In the summer of 1876, your gang decide to take your successful business model on the road.
You have robbed every profitable bank and train in your home state of Missouri multiple times.
You need a new, richer target, a place where you are not as well known.
You decide to ride 1,000 miles north into the state of Minnesota to rob the First National Bank of the small, prosperous town of Northfield. It is a plan born of pure, uncut arrogance.
Why you chose a target so far from your safe haven?
Missouri is a matter of great debate. Were you overconfident? Was the law of a supposedly rich bank with rumored ties to a radical Republican politician too great? Or were you trying to make a bold political statement by striking deep in the heart of Yankee territory?
The decision remains a mystery of criminal psychology. You are used to the people of Missouri, a population of fellow former Confederates who see you as a hero and are generally too scared or too sympathetic to at you.
You are not prepared for the people of Northfield, Minnesota.
They are, for the most part, hardy, stoic Scandinavian immigrants and battle-hardened Union Army veterans who settled here after the war.
They do not read your press clippings. They do not see you as a romantic folk hero, avenging the lost cause. They see you as a criminal nuisance that needs to be removed from their quiet, orderly town. And they are, as you are about to discover, surprisingly well armed and unimpressed.
On the afternoon of September 7th, 1876, your gang of 8 heavily armed men rides into Northfield.
The plan is the same as always. 3 men will go into the bank, while the others control the street outside.
It goes wrong from the very first second. You, your brother Frank, and another outlaw enter the bank. The bank teller, a man named Joseph Lee Hayward, bravely refuses to open the vault, even when you put a pistol to his head and slash him with a knife. While
are busy arguing with this incredibly stubborn employee, the alarm is raised.
This is where the story turns from a robbery into a full-blown urban firefight. This is an obscure but legendary detail of the event. It was not the sheriff who defeated you. It was the ordinary townspeople.
A local medical student, Henry Wheeler, hears the commotion, grabs a rifle, and from a second-story window, shoots one of your gang members off his horse.
The local hardware store owner, a C. Ike,
begins passing out rifles and ammunition to his customers, who then open fire on your men in the street from every window and doorway. You are no longer in control. You are caught in a deadly crossfire, being shot at from all directions by an entire town of angry, very accurate citizens.
The robbery, which was supposed to take 5 minutes, has devolved into chaos.
One of your men is dead in the street. Another is shot and killed trying to get into the bank.
Inside the bank, cashier Hayward is murdered in cold blood. You and Frank finally give up, running out of the bank with nothing, mounting your horses, and trying to escape. The James Younger Gang, the most feared outlaw band in America, is being utterly and completely routed by a small army of shopkeepers and doctors. You and Frank manage to escape, but the rest of the gang is not so lucky. The younger brothers are all severely wounded and are captured after a massive 2-week manhunt. The members are either killed on the spot or hunted down and killed in the days that follow.
It is a catastrophic, humiliating failure. It turns out that your Robin Hood brand does not have the same appeal in the North.
This day would be the end of the James Younger Gang as you know it. Your friends are dead or on their way to prison for life. Your myth of invincibility is shattered.
And for you, it is the beginning of a new, more desperate, and much, much lonelier kind of life on.
Run. The Northfield raid is a bloody, catastrophic failure. Your gang, the legendary James Younger gang, has been utterly shattered. Your friends and cousins, the younger brothers, are captured, riddled with bullets, and destined to spend the rest of their lives in prison. The others are dead, their bodies displayed in the streets of Northfield as grotesque trophies.
You and your brother Frank, through a combination of sheer luck and ruthless determination, are the only ones escaped the Great Minnesota Manhunt.
You are wounded. You are 1,000 miles from your safe haven in Missouri, and you are now truly, completely alone. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. The legend is dead, and all that is left is the miserable, hunted man. The great Robin Hood myth, a callback to the stories that once protected you, has been shattered against the hard reality of the armed and unimpressed citizens of Northfield. You are no longer a folk hero.
You are just common murderer and a failed bank robber, the subject of the largest manhunt in American history.
You and Frank spend weeks as desperate fugitives, stealing horses, sleeping in ditches, and slowly, painfully, making your way back south.
You decide to try a new and radical career. You will become a quiet, respectable family man living under a fake name. It is a bold new direction for a man whose primary professional skill is robbing trains.
You drift for a few years, settling in Nashville, Tennessee. You are no longer Jesse James.
You are now Mr. Thomas Howard, a respectable man of independent means, a speculator in the horse trade.
You have your wife, Z, and your 2 young children, Jesse Jr. and Mary.
You live in a nice house. You go to church.
You are, for all intents and purposes, attempting to live a normal life, and it is a quiet, suffocating hell. This is an obscure but deeply human part of your story, the profound, grinding paranoia.
Living a double life.
Your neighbors think you are Mr. Howard, a polite, if somewhat reclusive man who seems to have a lot of scars and a very watchful gaze.
They have no idea that you sleep with 2 loaded pistols under your pillow, and have a small heart attack every time a stranger's dog barks at night.
Your quiet life is a constant, exhausting performance, and the stage fright is killing you.
How your wife, Z, truly coped with the constant fear and paranoia of being married. The most wanted fugitive in America is a story that her quiet, loyal endurance does not fully reveal. Did she live in constant terror, or did she, over the years, become a hardened accomplice in your secret life? What is certain is that your family life is a web of secrets. You try to be a good father to your children. You play with them in the yard. You teach them things. You also have to teach them to never, ever speak to strangers about their father's business, and to never.
That Uncle Frank sometimes visits in the middle of the night, looking like he's been sleeping in a ditch for a week.
It is a very complicated and stressful approach to parenting. The freedom of the outlaw life, a callback to the myth you once embodied, is a complete illusion.
You are more of a prisoner now than the younger brothers are in their Minnesota jail cell. You are a prisoner of your own face, your own name, your own history.
Every knock on the door could be
Every friendly new neighbor could be a bounty hunter in disguise.
You read the newspapers with a sense of dread, always looking for any mention of your name, any sign that they are closing in.
But the quiet life is expensive, and the money from your old robberies is running out. You are not very good at being Mr. Howard, the respectable businessman.
The call of the old life, the only life where you truly knew how to make a living, is growing stronger. You know it is a mistake. No, you no longer have your old, experienced gang of hardened Confederate veterans.
But the pressure is building. The story is not over yet.
The quiet, respectable Mr. Howard is about to discover that it is very, very difficult to keep the violent, reckless Jesse James from coming back out to play. The quiet, paranoid life of Mr. Thomas Howard cannot last.
You are running out of money, and more importantly, you are running out of patience. The constant performance of
is exhausting, and the deep, primal thrill of the old life, the only life where you were truly the master of your own fate, begins to call to you. A callback to your past. You have learned that a normal life is not for you. So, in 1879, after 3 years of relative quiet, you decide to get back into the robbery business. The only problem is that all of your competent, professional criminal friends from the original James Younger gang are either dead or serving life sentences in
Minnesota prison. You need a new gang. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. You are now a legendary outlaw, a mythical figure, and you are forced to recruit from the local talent pool, which consists mostly of starstruck farm boys and small-time crooks who have read too many dime novels and think being an outlaw is a romantic adventure. This is a major historical fact of your later career.
The second James gang was not a collection of hardened Confederate veterans.
It was. Rotating cast of inexperienced, unreliable, and often incompetent young men who were attracted to your legend. You and your brother Frank begin to put the new gang together. The recruits are a world away from your old comrades. They are terrible shots. They get nervous. They talk too much. You have gone from leading a band of elite, battle-tested guerrilla fighters to being the frustrated den mother for a group of incompetent fanboys. Whether you were a poor judge of character, your later years, or if you were simply so desperate for men that you were forced to accept anyone who was willing to ride with you, is a key question. The quality of your gang declined so sharply that it seems you had lost your ability to command the loyalty of truly capable men. Among your most eager new recruits are a pair of brothers from your own Clay County, Charlie and Robert Ford. Robert, the younger one, is barely 20 years old. He has grown up on the stories of exploits. He has read the dime novels. He worships you. He tells you he has dreamed of riding with the great Jesse James his entire life. He is your biggest fan. This is, of course, deeply flattering and not at all a terrifying giant red flag waving in the wind. You led this new second-rate gang on a series of robberies, and the difference in quality is immediately, painfully apparent. The old gang, a callback to their military precision, operated with a silent, brutal. These new boys are clumsy. A train robbery in Glendale, Missouri, is a success, but it is a messy, chaotic affair. The planning is sloppy. The execution is loud. The take is smaller than you had hoped. You are the great Jesse James, a master of your craft, but you are now saddled with a crew of amateurs. You are a brilliant general leading an army of idiots. The work is more stressful than ever. You have to do all the planning yourself. You have to constantly watch your new for signs of weakness or stupidity that could get you all killed. The easy camaraderie of the old gang is gone, replaced by a tense, professional distance. These are not your brothers in arms. They are your employees, and they are not very good at their jobs. You are now in your early 30s. The years of hard living, of sleeping rough, of constant stress, and the lingering effects of your old war wound have taken their toll. You are more paranoid, more irritable, and have shorter temper than ever before. You are a living legend, but you are also a tired, aging man in a very dangerous line of work, surrounded by people you cannot truly trust. You are now surrounded not by brothers forged in the fires of a real war, but by strangers and admirers. And as you will soon learn, in the lonely, paranoid world of a hunted man, there is no one more dangerous than a fan who gets too close. Your return to a life of crime is not a glorious comeback. It is a frustrating decline. The robberies you commit with your new amateur gang are often clumsy, yielding smaller and smaller rewards. The legendary precision of the old James Younger gang is gone. You are now the weary leader of a band of jumpy, unreliable youths, and the constant stress of managing their incompetence is wearing you down. You have become more paranoid, more prone to fits of temper. The myth of Jesse James is a heavy cloak, and the man underneath is beginning to. Then, the political landscape shifts against you in a final, decisive way. In 1881, a new governor is elected in Missouri, a man named Thomas T. Crittenden. He is an ambitious politician who decides that the best way to make a name for himself and bring modernity and order to Missouri is to finally eradicate the embarrassing, romanticized problem of the James gang. He makes your capture or death his #1 political priority. Congratulations, you are now the official project of a very determined and very powerful politician. Governor Crittenden quickly realizes that the old methods of local sheriffs and temporary posses are useless against you, a callback to the local support network that has protected you for years. So he resorts to a new and more insidious tactic. This is a major historical fact, the move that will seal your fate. Crittenden secretly meets with the heads of the railroad and express companies, the corporations you have years robbing. He convinces them to put up a massive reward fund. Then, he issues a gubernatorial proclamation. There is now a $10,000 reward on the heads of you and your brother Frank, $5,000 each, dead or alive. This is an unprecedented sum of money in your time. It is a fortune. It is enough to buy a dozen farms, to live in luxury for the rest of one's life. And it is a public invitation to your own followers to betray you. The dead or alive clause is a particularly ugly piece of business. It is, in effect, a state-sanctioned bounty, a license to assassinate you with no legal consequences. This act is legally questionable and causes a storm of controversy, with your supporters like John Newman Edwards decrying it as a dishonorable act of tyranny. But it is also a brutally effective strategy. The news of the reward changes everything. The problem with being a legendary outlaw is that you can't trust anyone. The problem with being
legendary outlaw with a $10,000 price on your head is that you really can't trust anyone, especially the broke, starstruck young men in your own gang who have been telling you for months how much they admire you.
The paranoia that has been your constant companion for 15 years now becomes a suffocating, all-consuming reality.
You look at the faces of your new crew, the amateurs, the dime novel dreamers.
You look at the Ford brothers, Charlie and Bob, a callback. Your first meeting with them, their hero worship now looks different.
Does it hide greed? Does their admiration have a price tag? You know that $10,000 is enough to make a poor farmer betray his own mother. It is certainly enough to make a young, ambitious criminal with a loose conscience consider shooting his hero in the back.
The reward is not just a threat.
It is a ticking clock. It is an open invitation for betrayal. And you know, with the cold certainty of a man has lived his entire life surrounded by violence and treachery, that it is an invitation someone is going to accept.
You have spent your life on the run from the law. Now, your greatest enemy is no longer the sheriff or the detective.
It is the simple, brutal mathematics of human greed. Someone in your own small, trusted circle is about to RSVP to the governor's invitation, and all you can do is wait and watch and wonder which one of them it will be.
The governor's reward hangs in the air, a toxic, unspoken poison. You look at the young, nervous faces of your new gang, and you no longer see even the faintest glimmer of loyalty. You see only men doing difficult, dangerous math in their heads.
The $10,000 question is no longer if one of them will betray you, but when and how. Your paranoia, a callback to the constant companion of your fugitive life, is now a raging fire. You become more secretive, more prone to fits of rage.
You trust
one, least of all the fawning, sycophantic young man who follows you around like a puppy, Robert Ford.
But you are trapped. You need money to disappear, and the only way to get it is to trust these very men on one more job. In September of 1881, you and your new gang, including the Ford brothers, rob a train at Blue Cut, Missouri. The robbery is a success, but it is a clumsy, amateurish affair, a pale shadow of your former glories.
You get away with a few $1,000s, but
execution is sloppy. A conductor is shot.
The chaos confirms what you already know in your heart. Your time is running out.
Your new crew is a liability, and the law is closing in. This is the moment your future assassin makes his move. This is a major historical fact, the beginning of the end.
Governor Crittenden, frustrated by his inability to capture you, has been working behind the scenes. He can't find you, so he starts targeting the weaker, less important members of your. He manages to arrest a cousin of the Ford brothers.
Using this leverage, he arranges a secret meeting. Robert Ford, the young man who worshipped you, secretly meets with Governor Crittenden.
The exact timeline of the Ford's betrayal is murky.
Did Bob Ford join your gang with the intention of killing you all along?
Or was he a genuine admirer who was later tempted by the massive reward and coerced by the governor's threats and promises?
The answer is buried with his own justifications.
What is certain is that a deal is struck. The governor promises Bob Ford a full pardon for his own crimes and a substantial portion of the $10,000 reward.
In exchange, Bob Ford must do what no posse or detective agency in America has been able to do.
He must kill you.
Bob Ford, your admiring Prop G, your gang's newest recruit, leaves that meeting as a secret agent of the state, a Judas with a government contract. You, meanwhile, make your final
mistake. The pressure of being on the run in the countryside has become too much. You decide to do the one thing a hunted man should never do. You try to settle down. You move your wife and children into a modest, respectable-looking house in the town of St.
Joseph, Missouri. You are now hiding in plain sight, living once again under the alias of Mr. Thomas Howard.
It is a desperate attempt to create a bubble of normal, domestic peace. And into this bubble, you invite the
believing it is safer to keep your last remaining crew members close. You invite Charlie and Bob Ford to live with you and your family in your new home. This is the next, and most profound, reason it sucks to be you. The paranoia that has kept you alive for 16 years. The sixth sense that has warned you of every trap finally fails you at the most critical moment.
Perhaps you are tired.
Perhaps you are lonely.
Or perhaps you simply cannot believe that this boy, this admirer,
hands on your every word, could be the one to betray you.
You let him into your home. You let him sit at your dinner table. You let him play with your children.
You are now living under the same roof as the man who has made a secret, legally sanctioned deal to murder you for money. The net has closed.
The players are all in place.
And the final act of your tragic, violent story is about to begin. not in a heroic shootout on a dusty street, but in the quiet domestic tranquility, your own living room.
The winter of 1881 gives way to the spring of 1882. You are living in the quiet domestic tranquility of your house in St.
Joseph, Missouri, under the name Mr. Thomas Howard. But it is a fragile, fraudulent peace.
This is the next reason it sucks to be you. Your life of grand, open-range freedom has shrunk to the claustrophobic confines of a single, respectable-looking house, and you have willingly invited your own executioners to live inside it with you.
Ford brothers, Charlie and Bob, are now your constant companions, your houseguests, your gang members, and your secret, state-sanctioned assassins. Your days are a performance of normalcy. You are Jesse James, the notorious outlaw, living the quiet life of a suburban father.
You play with your 2 young children in the yard.
You read the newspaper.
You discuss the weather with your neighbors. It is a peaceful life, except for the loaded pistols you keep within easy reach on.
Piece of furniture and the ever-present, gnawing paranoia that your 2 houseguests are secretly plotting to murder you for money. The Ford brothers, for their part, are living their own private hell.
They are living with you, the most famously dangerous and volatile outlaw in America.
They are terrified of you.
They are eating your food, accepting your hospitality, and waiting, day after day, for the perfect, unguarded moment to put a bullet in your head. It is the most awkward, passive-aggressive living arrangement in the history of the American West. You are not stupid. You are a man who has survived for 16 years on pure, animal instinct and a profound distrust of all humanity.
You can sense that something is wrong, whether you truly suspected the Fords specifically, or if your paranoia was just a general, free-floating condition born of a lifetime on the run, is impossible to know. Some accounts say you had a tense argument with Bob Ford just
before your death, that you saw the treachery in his eyes but failed, for some reason, to act on it. You find yourself testing them, asking probing questions, trying to catch them in a lie, watching their every move.
You are the great Jesse James, a legend of the frontier, and you have been reduced to trying to read the micro-expressions of a nervous 20-year-old over the breakfast table. Your life of crime has become a very stressful domestic drama. You are planning one great robbery, a bank in Platte City, the one that will finally give you enough money to leave this life behind for good, to take your family and disappear to some place where the name Jesse James is just a story in a book. The Ford brothers are supposed to be your partners in this new crime.
They know that if they are going to act, if they are going to collect their reward and their pardon, it has to be now, before you ride out again and potentially get killed in the robbery.
Them of their prize.
The pressure is building on everyone.
The house is a tinderbox of fear, suspicion, and greed, and a single spark is all that is needed to make it explode. A callback to your mastery of the ambush. You are now the one who is about to be ambushed, not in a rocky canyon, but in your own home. The paranoia that kept you alive for so long, the instinct that warned you of every trap, is still there, but it is blunted by exhaustion and by a fatal moment of misplaced trust.
You have let the enemy through the gates. You have invited them to your table.
You have slept under the same roof with them. The quiet life you tried to build for your family, a callback to your years in hiding, has become the stage for your own final, tragic act. The net has closed.
The players are all in place.
And the final curtain is about to rise, not on a dusty street at high noon, but in the quiet of your own living room on a warm spring. Is the morning of April 3rd, 1882. It is a warm, pleasant spring day in St. Joseph, Missouri. The sun is shining.
You eat breakfast with your wife, your 2 young children, and your 2 houseguests, the Ford brothers.
The conversation is polite, focused on the final preparations for the Platte City Bank robbery, which you are planning to commit the very next day.
It is a perfectly normal, domestic morning in the household of Mr. Thomas Howard, which is what makes it so horrifyingly tense. You are a man having a quiet breakfast with his own executioners.
After the meal, you and the Fords go into the living room to discuss the plan one last time.
It is getting warm in the house.
You are wearing a heavy coat to conceal the 2 pistols in your gun belt, a habit born of 16 years on the run.
But here, in the supposed safety of your own home, it feels cumbersome, hot.
You make the single most consequential and out-of-character decision of your
life. You take off your coat.
Then, you unbuckle your gun belt with your trusted Colt revolvers, and you lay it on the bed in the adjoining room.
For the first time in years, you are unarmed in the presence of men you do not fully trust.
You have just made it much easier for your houseguests to kill you.
The exact conversation that took place that morning is, of course, lost to history, known only through the self-serving and often contradictory accounts of the Ford
but the physical evidence and the core sequence of events are undisputed. You are talking, perhaps pacing the room, and then your eye is caught by a picture hanging on the wall.
It is a simple, framed needlepoint, perhaps with a motto like, "In God we trust," or a picture of a horse.
It is dusty, and it is hanging slightly crooked.
This small, domestic imperfection offends your sense of order.
In the midst of planning a violent crime, you are distracted by a bit of dust. You, the wanted and feared man in America, a figure of chaos and rebellion, turn your back on Charlie and Robert Ford and step onto a nearby chair to do a little light housekeeping.
It is your final and most fatal mistake.
In that single, vulnerable moment, the world slows down. For the Ford brothers, this is the chance they have been waiting for, the moment they have been dreading for months. They had planned to ambush you, to shoot you from behind a hedge when you were leaving for robbery. But now, you have given them a perfect, clean, and cowardly opportunity. They exchange a quick, terrified glance. This is it. There will never be a better chance. You are standing on the chair, your back to the room, your hand reaching up to wipe the dust from the picture frame. You are thinking, perhaps, of the robbery tomorrow, of the money, of finally escaping this life for good.
You are not thinking of the 20-year-old boy behind you, the boy who once worshipped as a hero, the boy who has made a deal with the governor.
You do not hear the soft cocking of a pistol hammer over the sound of your own movements. Robert Ford raises the new Smith & Wesson revolver that you yourself had gifted him just a few days earlier.
His hands are shaking.
This is not a showdown at high noon. This is a quiet, pathetic, and deeply personal act of betrayal. He aims at the back of your head, just below your right ear. He pulls the trigger. The sound of the in the small, quiet room is deafening. The bullet strikes you.
You do not cry out. You do not turn.
You simply, silently, fall from the chair and land face down on the floor. Your wife, Z, runs into the room, screaming.
But it is too late.
You, Jesse James, the man who survived the Civil War, who outran the Pinkertons, who survived dozens of gunfights and a 16-year manhunt, are dead. You have been killed, not by a sheriff's posse in a blaze of glory, but by a
starstruck boy, for money, in your own home, while you are dusting a picture.
You are dead.
The gunshot echoes in a small room, a final, pathetic period at the end of a long and bloody sentence.
But this is the final,
and most profound, reason it sucks to be you. Your miserable, violent, and deeply unglamorous life is over, but your wildly successful and almost entirely fictional career as a folk hero is just beginning. Your death, in all its cowardly and domestic ugliness.
The one ingredient that was missing to make your myth immortal. Robert Ford, the dirty little coward, as he will forever be known in song and legend, immediately confesses.
He and his brother Charlie surrender to the authorities, expecting to be hailed as heroes and to receive their massive reward. They get the reward, but they do not get the acclaim.
Instead, they are arrested, charged with murder, and sentenced to hang. The governor, in a prearranged act of political, pardons them, but the public verdict is already in.
They are reviled, despised as traitors who shot a man in the back in his own home while his children were playing in the yard.
Robert Ford will live the rest of his short, miserable life as a social outcast, drifting from town to town, forever known as the man who killed Jesse James. You, meanwhile, become a martyr. This is the great historical fact of your afterlife. Your body is put on public display.
Thousands of people from over Missouri file past your coffin to see the corpse of the legendary outlaw.
It is the greatest tourist attraction of the year. They clip locks of your hair as souvenirs. They whisper that you are a hero, a modern-day Robin Hood, driven to a life of crime by a corrupt government and finally brought down not by the law, but by a cowardly assassin's bullet. This is an obscure but telling detail of your legend. After your death, dozens of grim post-mortem photographs are taken.
These photographs are then sold as popular cabinet cards. People buy them, display them in their homes. You have been transformed from a dangerous public menace into a collectible, a piece of morbid memorabilia.
Your mother, Zerelda, ever the shrewd manager of the family brand, has a new gravestone carved for you.
It reads, "In loving memory of my beloved son, murdered by a traitor and coward whose name is not worthy to appear here. The man is dead."
But the myth is now powerful than ever.
A callback to the legend created by the newspapers. Your cowardly death erases all the nuances, all the brutalities, all the pathetic failures of your real life.
The murder of the unarmed cashier at Northfield is forgotten. The innocent bystander killed at the Liberty robbery is forgotten. The years of terror you inflicted are forgotten.
All that remains is the simple, powerful, and deeply misleading story a brave Confederate soldier, a friend to the poor, a man who fought against the powerful railroads and banks, who was finally killed, not in a fair fight, but by a Judas in his own house.
And so, your story ends not with the quiet, forgotten death of a common criminal, but with your apotheosis into an American myth. The life you actually lived was one of constant, grinding fear, of hiding in caves, of chronic pain from old wounds, of paranoia that turned you against your friends and family.
It was a miserable, sucky life. Slow-motion tragedy born from the violence of a bitter war. But none of that matters now.
The real you, the complicated, violent, and often pathetic man, has been completely erased.
All that is left is the legend. A simple, powerful, and enduring story of rebellion that is, in almost every way that matters, a complete and total